The Shadow Stitchers of Crown Avenue. At Crown Avenue in Clydebank, a skeletal Victorian mansion of blood-red sandstone pierced the bruised, Scottish sky. Its windows were like hollow eyes, and its chimneys reached upward like crooked fingers. High within its skull lay the attic, a gloomy vault of forgotten trunks and dust that tasted of ancient cedar. This was the fortress of Scott, a squirrel with fur the color of rusted iron and a tail that flickered like a dying flame. To Scott, the attic was a kingdom of angles and edges, a sanctuary from the prowling and howling world below. Scott was a creature of obsessive precision. By day, when a sickly, pale sun filtered through the grime-streaked slates, he worked with frantic energy. He didn't just store food, he curated it. Acorns were filed by weight, pine cones were stacked into spiraling, precarious towers. He moved with a skittering, rhythmic scratch that echoed against the rafters. Scott believed the silence of the attic was a canvas, and his busy claws were the only brush permitted to move across it. But as the sun bled into the horizon, staining the river Clyde a deep, bruised purple, Scott retreated into a nest woven from tattered Victorian lace and frayed wool. As the day thief slept, the night dweller stirred. Bram the bat with wings like tattered black silk and ears as large as lily pads, uncurled from his hiding place behind a cracked mirror. For Bram, the attic was not a workshop of things, but a cathedral of echoes, a world defined by the vibrations of the dark. Bram's nights were a symphony of unseen shapes. He navigated by casting silver threads of sound into the darkness, listening for the ping against the porcelain face of a broken doll or the thud against a moth-eaten trunk. He found the attic cluttered and chaotic, the day creature's piles of nuts were obstacles in his flight path, jagged islands in a sea of shadow. Bram preferred the hollow whoosh of the wind through the eaves, a lonely music that suited his solitary heart. Their lives might have remained two separate ghost stories if not for a Tuesday of violent thunder. A jagged bolt of lightning struck the lightning rod, the crack of it so loud it shook the very foundation of 30 Crown Avenue. Startled from his slumber, Scott bolted from his nest just as Bram was swooping home from a rain-lashed hunt. They collided near the central chimney stack. A chaotic explosion of frantic wings, scratching claws, and high-pitched shrieks of terror filled the lightning-cracked air. The initial panic curdled into a cold, spindly standoff. Scott sat back, his chest heaving, hissing about the leathery phantom who nearly broke his neck. Bram perched atop a stack of yellowed newspapers, his ears twitching as he chattered about the hairy-clatter beast who made the daylight unbearable. They were two misfits sharing a single, dusty world, realizing that neither was a ghost. They were just roommates separated by the ticking of a clock. A truce was brokered in the ink-black silence. Scott found a discarded ledger from a long-dead shipbuilder and a shard of charcoal. Every evening, before the light failed, he drew meticulous, spindly maps. He marked no-fly zones where his nut towers stood and left weather warnings scrawled in jagged script, alerting Bram to the movements of the neighborhood's one-eyed, prowling cat or the whistling leaks in the roof. Bram, though he could not draw, found his own ways to communicate. He began leaving midnight tributes on the pages of the ledger, a silver gum wrapper that caught the moonlight, a strange, skeletal beetle shell, or a cluster of shriveled rowan berries. He used his claws to etch simple, deep grooves into the wood near the ledger, a circle for calm skies, or a series of sharp zigzags for the roof slates or screaming. One morning, Scott woke to find 3 deep zigzags carved into the floorboards near the north window. Investigating the warning, he found a slate had slipped, leaving a gap through which the freezing rain began to seep. Scott spent his day laboring with bits of wire and wood to seal the wound in their house. In a gesture of newfound respect, he moved his entire winter store to the shadowy eaves, leaving the center of the attic clear for Bram's nightly ballets. Now, at 30 Crown Avenue, the transition between light and dark is a quiet, spectral dance. At the stroke of dusk, Scott gives a single, sharp chitter of farewell as he slips into his lace nest. Bram unfurls his ink-stained wings with a soft, dry rustle. They are the twin guardians of the attic, two strange, lonely architects who have learned that even in the darkest corners of Clydebank, no one has to be truly alone.